The only approval you need is the one you grant yourself.
Just listen to that again. It sounds like a source of absolute power, right? The idea that you are the final judge, jury, and executioner on your own worth. But here's the thing. Inside that simple sentence is a massive paradox. Because for so many of us, that very need for self-acceptance, it's not a fortress. It's actually the blueprint for a prison. It's the vulnerability that's created by that quiet little voice inside that says, "I'm not enough," which then forces you to look to the outside world for any sign that you are.
And that's exactly what we're going to deconstruct today. See, this internal engine of self-worth, it's the most personal part of you, but it can be weaponized. It can be turned into a kind of external currency, one that other people can control, that they can ration out to get power over your decisions, your emotions, and ultimately your actions. We're not just talking about being a people pleaser here. We are talking about a full-blown system of control.
So let's really break this down. What we're looking at is the approval paradox. It's this fundamental battle between the internal power you should have and the external dependency that can be built up to take its place.
Here's our game plan. We'll start with the paradox itself. Then we're going to dissect what it actually feels like. We'll call that the anxiety machine. And then the mechanics of the control system. We'll get into the nitty-gritty psychology of why the trap is so effective. And then, the most important part, we'll arm you with the countermeasures, an internal validation protocol, and the path to real self-mastery.
And look, this isn't just some abstract theory. For so many people, this is real life. It's like having this constant low-humming machine of anxiety just running in the background of everything you do. It's that feeling of walking on eggshells, not just with one person, but with pretty much everyone.
And these symptoms, they're not separate issues. Oh no, they all feed each other in this nasty little cycle. That crippling chronic anxiety, that's the engine. It leads straight to paralyzing decision-making, because every choice you make is weighed against how other people are going to see it. And this is why you end up saying yes all the time, because that intense, immediate fear of someone being disappointed in you feels way, way worse than the long-term cost of doing something you don't want to do. Before you know it, your emotional stability is totally outsourced, and your own identity starts to feel hollow, like you only exist based on how useful you are to other people.
Now, being on high alert like this all the time, it comes at a huge cost. It's called cognitive load. Think of your brain like a computer's processor. This constant approval seeking is like running a massive, super complex simulation in the background 24/7. If I say this, how will they react? Are they mad at me? What's the perfect thing to say? All that processing just drains your mental battery, and it leads straight to burnout. It keeps you compliant because, frankly, you're just too exhausted to put up a fight. And this is the end game of the anxiety machine. Your sense of well-being is no longer yours. It's a prize that someone else can hand out or take away whenever they feel like it. You get hooked on their praise, which, by the way, is strategically unpredictable. This isn't a healthy relationship. It's what we call a state of status dependency. You're always chasing a status, approved, liked, useful, that only one person has the power to give you. And that, my friends, is the foundation of the trap.
Okay, so we understand the feeling of it now, right? Let's switch gears. Let's get clinical and analyze the system itself. How does this trap actually work? What are the moving parts?
The engine that powers this entire system is something called External Validation Dependency, or EVD. This is the state where your internal sense of "I'm okay" is completely outsourced, and it's fueled by two really deep-seated drivers. First, attachment anxiety, that primal gut-level fear of being rejected, and second, fear conditioning. That's the process where your brain literally learns to associate things like setting boundaries with the intense pain of that possible rejection. Over time, you're conditioned to avoid that pain no matter what. So how is this dependency kept in place? It's through this self-perpetuating cycle, the validation compliance feedback loop. Here's how it works. Step 1, the other person doesn't praise you all the time. They give it to you sporadically, unpredictably. We'll come back to why that's so critical. Step 2, when you finally get that praise, you don't really feel happy, you feel relief. The anxiety machine just quiets down for a second. Step 3, your brain makes the connection. My hard work to please them made the bad feeling go away. The behavior is reinforced. And finally, step 4, because this person is the source of that relief, your dependency on them just gets deeper, and the loop gets tighter.
The whole strategy behind this loop has a name: emotional gatekeeping. This right here is the leverage point. A manipulator positions themselves as the only person who can give you the currency you're desperate for: validation. They become the gatekeeper. And by controlling when and how you get that feeling of approval, they control your behavior.
Your self-worth isn't an internal state anymore. It's a resource that they ration out in exchange for you doing what they want.
This system it's incredibly insidious, but man, is it effective. So the question is, why? Why are our brains so vulnerable to this kind of manipulation? Let's look at the psychological buttons that get pushed to make this trap work so well. Okay, the number one leverage point is a classic from behavioral psychology: intermittent reinforcement. This is the secret sauce. Think about a slot machine. It doesn't pay out every time you pull the lever, right? It pays out on a completely unpredictable schedule. And that's exactly what makes it so addictive. See, your brain gets a much bigger dopamine hit from a surprise reward than a predictable one. When approval is handed out randomly, it hijacks that exact same reward system. So you keep pulling the lever, you keep complying, you keep trying harder, just hoping for that next jackpot of validation. And a pattern like this is way, way more powerful and harder to break than if they were just nice to you all the time.
And this brings us to the just brutal math of the approval trap. Just look at this unequal exchange. On one side, you have this incredibly high cost, the cognitive load, the constant anxiety, all your own needs getting pushed down, a huge expense of your life's energy. And what do you get in return? This tiny, fleeting reward, a moment of temporary relief from the anxiety that the system itself created. The return on investment is absolutely terrible. But that addiction to the intermittent reward keeps you playing the game. It's why you can spend an entire week agonizing over one short, snippy email, all for that brief moment of relief when they finally reply with something positive.
So if the deal is so bad, why do we keep taking it? Well, because of this. This is the ultimate enforcement mechanism, the threat to your social identity. That fear of being labeled unlikable, difficult, or selfish. As social animals, that is a profound threat. This fear is the stick that goes with the carrot of intermittent praise. And this is the moment the trap slams shut, when the fear of their disapproval becomes the absolute highest price you're willing to pay for anything.
Okay, so we've taken apart the problem, the system, the psychology. Now we switch from analysis to action. We need a countermeasure, and it's a clear, tactical plan: the internal validation protocol.
So, here's the billion-dollar question. How do you actually neutralize that feedback loop? How do you take back control from the emotional gatekeepers and reclaim what is rightfully yours, your own self-worth?
The first, and honestly the most critical tactic, is to create space. We call this the time barrier. It's a deliberate tactical pause that you put in place between the moment someone asks you for something and the moment you reply. And its purpose is very specific. It's to decouple that immediate physiological fear response from your actual decision. That jolt of anxiety you feel, that's a conditioned reflex. The time barrier is like a circuit breaker. It gives your rational mind a chance to come online before that fear-driven habit of just saying yes can take over.
And here is the tool you use to build that barrier. This simple phrase is your tactical script. Let me check and get back to you. Or, I need to look at my calendar. Or, let me think about that. The exact words really don't matter. What matters is that you have a preloaded, automatic response ready to go, so you don't even have to think about it. This phrase buys you time, it buys you space, and in that space, you take your power back. This leads us to the full protocol for building what we call value-based autonomy. First, you learn to recognize the signal, that knot in your stomach when someone asks you to do something you really don't want to do. That's not a weakness, that's a data point. It's an alarm bell telling you to pay attention. Second, you deploy the time barrier using your script. And third, and this is the deepest work, you redefine where your value comes from. You have to shift it away from external outcomes, like whether or not they approve, to your internal process. Your self-worth starts to be based on whether you acted in a way that aligns with your principles, no matter what happened next.
And this brings us to our conclusion, to the final strategic insight that really puts a fine point on everything we've talked about. This is the core truth at the very heart of the approval trap, and the key to mastering it.
I want you to really let this sink in. Your feeling of internal inadequacy, that little whisper that says, "I'm not enough," it's not just a personal problem. It is the single most valuable, most exploitable resource that another person can get their hands on. When you outsource your worth, you are handing over an incredible amount of power. Real mastery, then, is about developing self-generated certainty. It is that quiet, internal confidence that you and you alone are the sole authority on your own value. It's about taking that resource back.
And so we end up right back where we started. But now, this sentence should feel different. It's not just a nice little saying anymore. It's a strategic truth. It's the destination. It is the final word in the argument between you and the world about who gets to decide what you're worth. The only approval you need is the one you grant yourself.